Anyway, Robert, anything else onto that, or should we move on to this ridiculous women's 800 final, which is one of the craziest 800 races I think any of us have ever seen?
We got to talk about that. And the gun goes off. Marya Moraa of Kenya goes out in about 25 point. At 25 high, but you got to have 0.24 for the hand time. And then around 300, she starts to slow down. And right before 400, it looks like she slams on the brakes. I mean, she's not even in the lead at 400 meters. And based on the camera angles, it was kind of hard to see what was happening, but it's pretty clear she was by 500 all the way in last place. And you're like, man, that didn't last very long. And then yet when the race is over 300 meters later, she is your winner. Never before in the history of any elite 100-meter runners has anyone ever gone from first to last to first, from what we can tell. Correct us if you're wrong. Give you $100 if we are wrong. Robert at letsrun.com. But this was crazy. If you look at the splits, it was roughly like 41 for the first 300, 47 for the next 300, and then like a 28. And just absolutely ridiculous that she was able to pull this off. Beating Keely Hodgkinson in the Pacers, I guess she's now the Salisi Sahin of women's 800-meter runners. Always really, really good, but always getting the silver. Younger people, if you don't know who Salisi Sahin is, get out and go to Google. I think it's Chernish Stababa's husband, right?
Yeah.
But what do we make of this? I mean, to me, it's interesting in the sense of I got to give her, like, I thought it was incredibly stupid tactics, but I got to give her credit in the sense of she clearly is just she does listen to her body. Like what she said afterwards, it wasn't intentional. So she's going out, she realizes it's too fast. Then she backs off and just allows herself to go all the way back to last place and then slams it home and wins. And it was actually interesting. Weldon immediately, he starts the thread on this. Like, we both went to the message board immediately and started threads that were similar, but they had different takes. Weldon says, does this mean she can challenge Ah Thing Mo? And I just put, was this the craziest 800 ever? Has this ever happened before? But I do think that it shows you that what a talent she is. You can do this. This is not the optimal way to run the 800. But, I think if she can learn to start a little bit smarter, she's got a bright future. But I thought it was interesting. If you haven't read this week's edition of The Week That Was, my written weekly recap, I've got some good stuff in there. And remember, I reminded people, hey, at USA's, the All Thing Mo did something a little bit similar. She went like 42, 46, 29, and ran 157. So she's kind of gassed a little bit, relaxed, but there she's not going to last place because it was just the semifinals of USA's. But what a ridiculous race.
Yeah, I have a couple takes on it. One, you have to remember that she's still only 22 years old. I mean, she's a couple years older, Moraa, than Mo and Hodgkinson, but she's only been running this event. Last year was her first year running it. She started out as a 400 runner. She's run 50.8. She was the Kenyan champion of the 400 this year. So she has great speed. She medaled at the World Championships this year. So, we know it's not like she's totally out of place running like these tactical finals and that sort of thing. But the 800 is not an easy race tactically to run. And what was strange here is normally if you make a big mistake, like going out way too fast for the first 200 in an 800, you're done. The margin of error is just very small, especially when you're going up against someone as good as Keely Hodgkinson. So the fact that Moraa had the margin of error here, that she's so fit and talented to run stupidly the first 200, but then still win and still run 157.07, shows her true ability right now might be, 155 high or 156. And yeah, if that's the case, you're talking about someone who might be able to challenge a Thing Mo. Again, Keely Hodgkinson almost beat a Thing Mo at the World Championships this year. And Marya Moraa has now beaten Hodgkinson 2 of the last 3 times they've raced, both in this race and in the Diamond League in Stockholm. So what we thought might be a two-person battle after the Olympics last year might be now a three-person battle moving forward. But no one still no one has beaten a thing Mo. She's undefeated since turning pro. So she's still in the driver's seat. But yeah, this was a super crazy exciting race and makes me even more excited for the 800 moving forward.
There's one aspect of this race that no one talked about. I feel a little bit bad for her. Natoya Goule. I mean, she's been on the circuit. She's been running on a high level. She seems to never put it together at the championships. She had the bronze here. I don't want to say she let up, but she didn't like dive at the line, and then Laura Muir nips her by like 100th of a second. I'm just like, man, Natoya deserves a medal at some point. But, it's kind of cool to see Laura Muir double up at the Commonwealth Games, get the bronze here, and then just destroy everybody in that 1500-meter final a day later.
Yeah, John, what happened to her the last Commonwealth? I'm shocked she hadn't won a Commonwealth Games, but I also applaud her for going for the double, right? She could have played it safe and just gone for the 1500 where she was the heavy favorite, won pretty convincingly. But I mean, it's one thing we're seeing with our sport. A lot of meets don't matter, but this one mattered a lot to people in Britain. The crowds were huge. And the crowds were absolutely nuts. Huge. Gets a lot of press in Britain. So yeah, this is go for the double. So she gets the bronze and the gold. I just liked it. Whereas Sydney McLaughlin, she runs the one European race, doesn't have to run another one the rest of the year. No one will care. It's just how our sport works.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's a good point, Weldon. The more top athletes who commit to run these meets, that's how you imbue them with value, and that's how you grow the sport. Well, it is actually interesting, though. Even if all these top stars skip, I think people were just so desperate in Birmingham to have this big event to go to, they wouldn't have really cared. Like, do you really think does the general British public know the difference between, Marya Moraa or Ollie Hoare running these races and some other Kenyan or Australian? Probably not, but they're there to cheer on the home British athletes, and they're there for a big international competition. And one of the other reasons why the crowds were so good is Birmingham's like right in the middle of the country. It's the second biggest city in the United Kingdom, and it's driving distance for basically all of England. So even if you want to go up just for just one day, you're drawing from 60 million people or something. Whereas Eugene, I mean, what's driving distance to Eugene? How many people live there? I mean, it's pretty small. Even from Seattle is like maybe a 5-hour drive, but like say you can't drive to Eugene for a day. San Francisco, that's just too far. So you're really drawing from a much smaller population center. But also that wasn't the only reason for the crowds being better than Eugene.
I'm glad you brought up the crowds because I wanted to talk about it. Oh, this is embarrassing to Eugene. Yeah, maybe a little bit. First of all, the ticketing pricing, which brought in more revenue? I bet Eugene brought in more revenue because the ticketing was like 4 times as expensive. Like the tickets for this event were reasonable. For Eugene, they were not. But
Robert, come on. I doubt it. This had 30,000 a night. Morning sessions too. I mean, there's less sessions, but
okay, maybe they brought in more money, Weldon. But I saw some dumb tweets. Like I saw a tweet from Run Blog Run saying, when you market the sport properly, this is what happens. First of all, the head of the Eugene damn thing was some British guy. So if the Brits had some secret to marketing it, they would have done it. If the Brits had a secret to marketing, they would have had people at their trials this year when nobody showed up. Like this wasn't popular because it was British track and field. It was popular because it's the Commonwealth Games, and these people in Britain like to regale in their olden Commonwealth stuff and support. It's kind of like it's probably a slash. Help me out, John, if I'm here. I don't want to offend too many Brits, but it's just like a combo of the beauty of the Olympic trials, where slash Civil War reenactment type thing.
No, I don't think there's anything about like reliving the glory of the empire. It's a major international sporting event that's taking place in England. And unlike the United States, where, I mean, I saw this tweet from my old Dartmouth teammate, Will and his theory on one of the reasons why track has become such a niche sport is that ESPN basically doesn't cover track. ESPN only covers the stuff they have rights to. So it's the NFL and the NBA. And now you'll see more. I was watching SportsCenter the other day. What did they show a lot of highlights of? The WNBA. Is the WNBA one of the most popular sports in the country? No, but does ESPN have the rights for it? Yes. So, and ESPN is where sports fans in the United States go for their fix. I don't think that, I mean, obviously football or soccer has the whole hold over England. That's by far their most popular sport. But I don't think it's quite the same where there are just these few handful of sports that are being shoved down American sports fans' throats, and those are the ones we're told to care about. In England, if you're having a big Commonwealth Games, the fans are able to sort of, well, I don't know if think for themselves is the right spot, but they're more open to saying, like, I'm more interested in this, even though it's something I might not normally follow. It seems like a cool event. Whereas Americans are more just interested in the sports that they're told to be interested in. That, as a broad populace, that's sort of
Yes.
a sweeping generalization.
The main thing also was the population thing. I was like, you nailed it. You know, you were telling me how it's centrally located, and then I went and looked up the results on Statista.com. There's there's 5 cities in the UK, it appears to me, that have a metro area of over 1.5 million. 4 of them were within a 2.5-hour drive of Birmingham: London, Manchester, Birmingham, and Leeds. The only city in the United Kingdom that is not within a 2.5-hour drive of these Commonwealth Games is Glasgow, which is way up in the north. So,
Well, Glasgow is Scotland, yeah.
why not? That's in the UK.
Yeah, no, I know, I'm just
And
to clarify,
what I'm
yeah.
saying, and what's within a 2.5-hour drive of
Eugene? It's like Portland, that's it.
Portland?
Barely Portland, which is crazy, right? Yeah. This wasn't marketed better. The Commonwealth Games, well, one thing you can't help, right? The Commonwealth Games probably have more cachet in England than the World Track Championships do in the United States. But the big problem for Worlds in Eugene was it's the middle of nowhere. I mean, and also it shows what? The Olympic trials with the average person has way more pull. If you have the trials in Eugene in 2024, it'll be full for the week. Let's just book it right now. It's going to happen.
If you have the trials in Atlanta, if you have the trials in Des Moines, it'll be full. Supposedly Sebco is upset because this was good track ratings in the U.S. for worlds, but it's gets dwarfed by the Olympic trials. The Olympic trials pull in way more fans than the worlds. And we were talking about this the other day, like, we don't care about the gymnastics worlds. We don't care about the swimming worlds. We care about the Olympics. So that's true for, the average fan as well. But you guys talk about meets that matter. The reason why Muir hasn't won this race before, because she didn't run the 2018 Commonwealth Games, to the best I can tell. She skipped it. So when it wasn't at home, when it wasn't in the room right after Worlds, I also think one of the reasons why Eugene crowds were bad, it's hard, it's expensive too, but if you're in Europe, you can just stay home and you can also go to Commonwealths this year, or you can go to the European Championships. So it's just like the US fan that had to pick and choose between, do I want to go to NCAs, USAs, or Worlds in Eugene? Pick one. Same thing with the European fan. Do I want to go to the Commonwealths? Do I want to go to the Europeans, or do I want to go out to Eugene? Well, Eugene's by far the hardest to get to. I think I'll stay home and go to those.
I mean, the Commonwealth thing where it ranks in people's pecking order is interesting, right? Like, obviously, a home Commonwealth was in England. She's Scottish. Laura's there. I mean, it's a big thing on the BBC, that sort of thing. But, all the whores pumped off as can be for winning. But a guy like Mohamed skips it. Like, what's Mohamed got better to do right now? But it just shows maybe with Canadians, it's not that big of a deal. Obviously, with him, it's not that big of a deal. It's just one of those things with our sport, right? I mean, the only thing we all agree on, track fans, are Worlds and Olympics. Everything else, on Let's Run, I think most hardcore track fans appreciate the Diamond League. And then it's slim pickings after that.
But that's something you and I and John have all agreed on. The Diamond League is what we're paying attention to. Every time there's a meet, we try to recap it, whatever.